Salespeople, your commission checks shouldn't control your life. You should control your commission checks. I'll be back to tell you more in just a second. Hi, I'm Jeff C. West. I'm the award-winning author of 4 business and sales parables. I have over 30 years of successful sales and leadership experience across multiple industries. I've shared the stage, both in person and virtually, with legends like Bob Burg and Brian Tracy. I know what it takes to help you win in sales and leadership, and I'm here to help you do exactly that. So let's get started. You know, over the years, I've watched successful salespeople fail, not because they couldn't sell, but because they couldn't manage their money. So as a state manager for a Fortune 500 insurance company in Texas, I began to teach financial management principles to my commission-only salespeople in the state. You know, it's not unusual for someone to come on board with a sales organization, do what they're taught, do really well with it, and then make more money than they've made on their previous career. And if they're not careful and they don't manage that money, then there can come a time where it's not quite so good. They have a slump, and then they're in financial trouble. We had someone who came on board with my state operation in the insurance industry that did really well the first 90 days. They set records for my state. But a year later, they were no longer with us. And the reason being was pretty simple. They made a lot of money that first 90 days and went out and bought things like a motorcycle and some other things and didn't save that money. So when they got into some hard times where they weren't selling as much, then they didn't know what to do to offset that. And then they didn't stay with us because of it. So what I began to do was teach a class in my state operation about financial management principles when you're on a fluctuating income. And I'm going to give you some of the highlights of that today. First thing I'll tell you is you need to build an emergency fund. It needs to be somewhere between 3 and 6 months of your living expenses that you save and you have it ready, because your income in sales is going to fluctuate, especially if you are in a commission sales position. And so as the income fluctuates, it really creates some challenges for you. And not handling your money well ends up creating collision points rather than fusion points for you. Those moments where negative emotion and logic combine. When that happens, the somatic markers inside you will affect your sales performance because you're feeling like you're always behind. So you want to develop an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months worth of your living expenses, and start off with just building a first initial emergency fund with $1,000 in it. And then you can build it up later to be more of what you want. But when it comes to your finances, remember, freedom is much greater than fear. And you'll be more successful in sales when the financial pressure is off of you. And the way to do that is to make sure you've got that emergency fund. So as your income fluctuates, you're going to be just fine. The second point that I want to make with you today is to create a written budget. And I know sometimes the word budget scares people. And the truth is, I was never great at budgeting every penny, and there's some people I respect that do promote that idea. But you need to have a written budget and at least prioritize where your spending is going to go. You know, in my opinion, you should start with your saving and investing, at least 10% that goes toward your future. Let your money work for you. After you get your emergency fund built up, is that initial $1,000 as quickly as you can, and then you start saving on top of that, putting it in investments and things which we'll talk about in a minute. But prioritize that spending based on what it means to your family. You know, food, shelter, clothing, gas in your tank, that's all higher priorities than going out to eat, going to do some other things in your life that you really, if you had to cut back, you could. But prioritize that spending. And when you make those priorities, and so you're spending in priority order, when your income fluctuates, you start at the top and you work your way down. You make sure that your spending dollars are going in the direction that matches the priorities that you have for your family. That leads us into our next point that I want to go over with you, which is to eliminate high-interest consumer debt. Things like credit cards, different furniture notes, whatever you may have in your life, you'll know what they are. Now, there are 2 rules of thought on eliminating debt. A lot of people believe you should have no debt. I tend to line up with that as well, although I haven't always done that. But if you eliminate the high interest debt, that's going to help you a lot. You can't have a good financial future and build your financial independence if you're paying 20% interest to people. You just can't do that. There's another rule of thumb that says it's okay to have certain debt if it's low interest and it's working for you and you're making money from that. You speak with your own financial advisor on that. That's not what I am. I'm teaching you how to live on a fluctuating income when you're in sales. But you do need to eliminate this high interest debt. And the best way to do that, there are two rules of thumb. There's a debt snowball and there's a debt avalanche. I tend to line up with the debt snowball, people who teach it that way, which is you prioritize those consumer debts from lowest balance to highest balance, and you start paying any extra money you have toward paying off that lowest balance. As you've prioritized your spending, you get those minimum payments made, but then you start throwing every extra dollar you can to the lowest balance. Then when that one's paid off, you roll what you were paying into that credit card up to the next one, or up to that debt up to the next one. And you keep going, and you'll eventually eliminate those debts. There's another rule of thumb where people say use the debt avalanche, where you're paying off the highest interest loan first and working your way down from that. There's validity to both. I like the idea that with the debt snowball, every time you pay one off, you feel like you've accomplished something really well. And going along with that, a lot of people say you should never have a credit card. And that can be a valid point for a lot of people. But if you're using a credit card or a debit card as a means of payment and not a means of finance, and you're disciplined with that, I think you'll find that that works pretty well. And the final step I want to go over with you today is to invest in your future. You know, after you've got your emergency fund built, which has to be pretty liquid in case you need it, then start putting your money in investments, not just a savings account. You know, investing is really just a more sophisticated form of saving. Yes, you've got a little bit more risk, but you also have a chance at a much greater return. If you don't know how to do that yourself, which I didn't, you get a financial advisor to help you. My financial advisor has always done a great job for me. If you want to know who he is, let me know. I'll connect the two of you. But if you're investing in the future, you give yourself a chance for your money to work for you. You work very hard for your money. Let's get it working for you as well, because your money can work for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's a much better way to go. You know, as a rule, the S&P 500, I believe, has performed basically given about a 10% return or more over the last 50 years. So there are some safe investments out there. You don't have to get speculative. I was terrible at picking my own investments. As a matter of fact, I invested in a donut company because I loved their donuts. I did that right before the low-carb diet phase hit. Guess what? I lost money on that. But get a financial advisor, invest with them, and start building for your future. I don't care if it's just $50 a month. You can always invest more as you get more things paid off if you have debt and as your income grows. But that way, when you retire, you can retire with 7 figures in your investment accounts, and it'll help make sure that you're in good shape for the rest of your life. You know, the sales career may be kind of unstable, have its ups and downs. I get that. But your financial life does not have to reflect that. You can go out, keep your activity consistent, your income will start to grow consistently, and then when you've got those funds put back for that emergency fund, instead of having collision points every time you have to pay a bill, you start finding you have fusion points because you know you're saving for your future as you go along. One more quick thing I'm going to recommend to you. If you're in sales or if you lead a sales team, you need to get this book. It's going to help you handle your income and help you how you think about money. And it's a book written by Bill Cates and myself. It's called The Hidden Heist: Stop Robbing Yourself of Lasting Wealth. And in this book, it's so much fun. It's a financial management parable that I wrote. I set the entire story up in the middle of a bank robbery. It's got tension. It's got humor. It's got a lot of great twists that you won't see coming. One of my favorite endorsements that we received is by Bob Berg, who said, "Think a Netflix thriller meets the only money guide you'll ever need." So get this book. It's going to help you in how you think about money, because a lot of us tell ourselves stories about money because of how we grew up, and those stories aren't right, and it can affect your sales success. And then it also teaches some good principles about financial management. If you're a leader of a sales team, I'm going to encourage you to get the book, and then I'm going to encourage you to get it in the hands of all your sales team, because I lost some salespeople I know in my world, and I'm sure you have too, who were good, had great potential, but they couldn't handle their money right. Anyway, that's enough for me today. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.